for 2peasinabucket.com, and I'm here to show you how to make this Halloween decor project. And we're going to use a trinket box from Maya Road and a 2Ps digital download kit for this hybrid project that you can make very easily. Watch how. This is the Maya Road trinket box, and it has 9 slots. It comes in this natural craft color. But the nice part about this shadow box is that instead of having to work to fill these recessed areas that are quite difficult, it comes with 9 chipboard squares cut to fit. So you can put your background paper on here and then just be able to place it in each square so that you don't have to worry about trying to glue the perfect size square into each piece. The other nice thing is that that does mean that you could decorate both sides for 2 seasons or 2 color schemes. So you could have one that was holidays and one just to match your normal room decor. And so you could change them out very easily with only needing 1 box. Okay, so we're going to make our box a Halloween color to start out with. So we're going to paint this natural craft bit so that it's black, and I'm just going to use a paint dabber for that. We have lots of different colors you can choose from at 2Ps in the Ranger paint dabbers. And I'm not going to worry about the inside of the box since these are going to be going in each of the boxes. But I am going to want all of this framework to be black and then all of these inside pieces here. So just show you how we're started with that. And you can just dab or brush it on, nice and easy. So obviously the frame is going to be very simple. And then what I do for the inside pieces is that I do it at an angle. And once you get to a piece where you can't maneuver, if you can't maneuver into the corner, you can open the dabbers and use a paintbrush. They just unscrew in it and you can use them like normal acrylic paint that way. So you're going to want to go ahead and paint the entire thing the color that you want, but don't worry too much about these centers because they're going to get covered up. Okay? So now you've got the box all painted, all the edges that are going to show are all painted black. Just so you know, the paint dries very, very quickly on this board, so it'll be dry before you can even make a cup of tea or anything else. So don't worry about having to count in a whole day. Sometimes paint doesn't like to dry and you have to wait and leave it till the next day. This will be done in just a few minutes, so you don't have to wait at all. Okay, so with the frame done, we're going to set that aside and we're going to work on the pieces that are going to go inside. So we've got 9 of these squares to cover with various things, and the first thing I have are some hybrid elements. These are from a digital kit available at 2Ps. It's called the Halloween Do-It-Yourself Kit, and it has all various pieces of tags in rectangles and circles, and also some photo frames and some other little bits. And they're all designed to be printed out, so you can just choose what size you would want to print them. And to print them all on one page, I just opened a new document and pasted them all in and then moved them around until I got all 6 of these designs on one page. The circles are already laid out, so you can just click the size that you want that whole set and print. And so I just printed them at the size of a piece of paper. Okay. I should probably show them the right way up. Huh. Okay. So yeah. So I'm going to start with the rectangles and squares, and I'm going to cover 3 of my squares from this row because this has the orange and yellow coloring. 3 from this row, which has the kind of black and cream, and then I'm going to use some pattern papers on the third, and I'll get to that in just a second. So my advice for chipboard squares is to use one to trace out what you're going to cut. Because if you trace around the piece, you're going to trace wider than what you really need on the chipboard. So it doesn't matter if you use a pen or anything. Just place the chipboard over the part of the design you want to include. And draw around it. And then I'm going to cut this piece out, but I'm going to cut just inside the line instead of outside or on the line. Cut just inside so that the ink is gone, and that's going to make the piece fit right inside the chipboard and not go over the edge. So once you've cut the square to just smaller than the lines, it's going to fit right on top of the chipboard. So what I've done is gone ahead and traced the rest of the boxes on the hybrid sheet for what I want to cut out. So I'm going to cut all of those. You can do this with a trimmer. I just prefer to use my scissors. I'm just going right inside the line. I prefer to use my scissors because I actually quite like the ever so imperfect angle of all the cuts. But obviously you can use a trimmer if you prefer, because it will be a little bit quicker and also a lot more accurate. So once you've cut all those, then I've also got those last three, because I'm going to do 3 from this color scheme, 3 from this color scheme, so I have 3 more. And I'm going to do those from some gray cardstock that's been embossed with a Cuttlebug folder, a Sizzix folder, so that it has a polka dot texture to it. And I'm going to do exactly the same thing. I'm just going to put the chipboard on top of the pattern or embossed paper and trace around, and then cut out those squares. How I adhere the paper to the chipboard is to use a spray adhesive. This is best done outside. I'm going to do it inside so that I can show you, but I have all my windows open and lots of ventilation going. So the idea is that you're going to spray the chipboard, or you can prefer to spray the back of the paper. The decision should be on how much chipboard is going to show. If the paper is going right to the edge of the chipboard, then spray the adhesive onto the chipboard, because you'll get a better bond. But if there's going to be space around the edge, then you want to spray the paper so that you don't end up with the glue around the edge that's going to then attract dust and other bits and pieces as you go. So what I do is I have a box dedicated to my spray adhesive, and it's nothing fancy. It's an old posting box that's been used several times. And then I use this for all my misting and gluing. So I just have a bit of paper, a bit of newsprint in the bottom that soaks up the extra. And I put whatever I want to spray backside up so that I can spray in the box. So I'll take these and put them in here. And then I'm just using a can of spray adhesive, which you shake up really well, and then spray inside. And either stand far away, use a mask, hold your breath. You do not want to inhale this, obviously, but it is a useful glue for chipboard and also for transparencies, because it doesn't show at all. So what I do is just shake it and then hold it quite as far away as I can. And you can see when you spray, you can see just a little bit of color as you spray, so you'll be able to see where the glue is going. And then it goes to a point where it's tacky. You don't need to pick it up and adhere it straight away. You can just let it dry for about a minute, and then you can pick it up and then place it on the chipboard. So I'm going to take one of these. And place it on the chipboard. And now it's very, very secure, and I don't have any lumps or bumps from the glue. It's not going to fall off. And so that's my preferred way of adhering paper to chipboard. Once you have all the papers cut and adhered to each square, just a little finishing touch before we're done with the background is to add some ink to the edge. So I'm going to use some Black Soot Distress ink on the ink applicator, the wooden handle with the foam. And that way I can just go around the edges and add some shading. If you've never used these, I really suggest trying one out. I wasn't convinced when I saw them until I tried one, and then I realized I had to have several. So they really do help if you like inked edges and you haven't given them a try. It's so much easier than just using the edge of the ink pad. You get a much nicer fade to the color. You can do lots of things, and if you check out the Thinking Inking videos here on 2Ps, there's loads of ideas for what you can do with this simple little tool. So don't underestimate it. It's quite a useful thing to have. For these three, the gray embossed squares, I'm going to use these circles that come in the Halloween do-it-yourself kit. And I'm going to use a circle punch. This is the Fiskars Squeeze Punch, which is really good if you don't have strong hands or strong wrists, because you don't have to use much pressure at all. It's not the hard pressing on the table. So this is the large circle size, which is, I'm not sure if it's 1.5 inches or 1.25 inches, but that's either of those would work for these circles. So you can just see exactly where you're going to punch. Line it up so that you are going to get that black frame around each tag. Squeeze, and you'll get the circle all perfectly punched out. So I need 3 of those. To further embellish the gray squares, I've got the circles that we've printed and punched, and then I'm going to add a bit of pattern paper behind that. This is from the Queen Bee collection from Pink Paisley, and it's a gray with a yellow polka dot. And I'm going to use this large scallop circle from EK Success. And I'm just going to punch one of these for each of the gray circles, so I need 3. And then again, I'm going to add the black ink around the edge. And I'm going to go ahead and adhere the scalloped piece flat onto the gray embossed paper, just using regular adhesive. I like the permanent dots from American Crafts, this to that. That's what I use for all my photos and paper to paper. It's going to have that flat, and then I'm going to have this raised up, so I'm going to just put some foam tape or pop dots in the back. And then I can just add that to the center of the scallop circle. And so I have these 3 squares now, all with some depth, because they're going to go in the shadow box, so a little bit of depth is a good thing. But quite a simple design, because we've got all these different patterns that are going to go on. So that's all there is to that one, just a scalloped circle and then the printed circle on top. Then I'm going to look at these, the ones that are monochrome, just black and cream, black and white. And I'm going to add a little embellishment to the corners of these, and I'm going to be using some orange buttons from Jenny Bolin Studios, 1 for each of the squares. And I'm also going to use some flowers that I'm going to paint to match. So these are just the white Prima daisies. I like getting them in white because now that means I don't have to have a million bottles. I can have a good collection of white in different shapes and sizes, and then I can use mist or paint or stamping ink to color them to match everything else. And I'm also going to use 3 embellished stick pins. These are also from Jenny Bolin. They come in a little pack that looks like this. And they have little pearls and rhinestones on the end, and this is the pewter color, which is a nice shiny gray. I'll need some black embroidery floss that I'm going to put through the holes in the button. And I'm going to put, in the middle of the flower, I'm going to put pearl brads, which is 1 for each flower, and those are by American Crafts. So I'm going to start by threading some string, or some embroidery floss through the buttons. And I'm just going to thread these through so that I end up with the ends on top so that I can knot them. And then the next step is that we're going to color each of the white flowers to match. And you can just use the paint dabbers again and dab the acrylic paint straight on. I'm going to do these with a bit of sparkle. So I'm going to go back to that same box that I used for the spray adhesive and use a glimmer mist. I'll just pop my flowers into the misting box, and then I'm just going to spray the Glimmer Mist over them so that I get a nice orange coat. This is Tiger Lily from the Tattered Angels line. And then I'll just leave them to dry for a second while I go ahead and tie the rest of my knots and get all the buttons ready to go, and then they'll be dry. With each of the buttons, I put a stick pin through the knot and just held it in place. It'll sit on the ridges of these buttons, so you don't need any separate adhesive. And then I'm going to add adhesive to the back of each one to hold it in place on the chipboard square. And I'm just going to do that with glue dots. So you can just stick the button to the glue dot and pull it off. And that way you shouldn't have to get it on your fingers, because glue dots are pretty sticky. Then attach it to the chipboard, and just keep in mind that since these are going to go inside the shadow box, you don't want to take the button or anything off the outside of the square, because then it won't fit in the space of the box. So each one of these, the cream and black squares, has a button glue dotted on top with a pin. And then I've got the daisies that I added the yellow, orange Glimmer Mist to. And because this is a Halloween project, I just want to add a little black to them to keep the orange and black theme. So I'm just going to do that with the Distress ink, and I'm just applying the ink to the very edges of the petals. I really just want a little bit of contrast because I'm going to put the orange flower right next to the orange button, and I want a little bit of definition there on the edge so it doesn't just look like orange next to orange and you can't tell what's what. So that's all there is to that. And then I've got a pearl brad to go through the center of each one. I'm not going to worry about putting the brad through the chipboard. I'm just going to put it through the flower and flatten it out on the back. And then I'm going to attach the flowers with glue dots as well. So that's why I don't have to worry about actually using the brad to attach it to the chipboard. You could, if your chipboard is thin enough, you could punch a hole and then thread the brad all the way through. But a glue dot is going to hold it just as well, so no worries. So these are just going to go right next to it. And I want some overlap so that you can see the dimension. Everything's sticking to my fingers. With the flowers, I don't mind if they go a little bit off the edge because the petals are flexible, so they can flatten out inside the box. There we go. So that's that set done, which just leaves us with the colored set in the middle. And for these, I'm going to use this pleated ribbon by Pink Paisley. It comes in a strip that has two colors, and this had a black and then a kind of off-white natural color. And I'm just going to pull it off the card. It doesn't have adhesive on it, so you can just glue it with whatever adhesive you prefer, or glue dots. And what I'm going to do is add one strip to each of these, so somewhere on each piece. So I'm just going to hold it in place and then cut at the join that will be the best fit. It doesn't come unraveled when you cut it, which is quite useful because it is stitched, the pleats are stitched down the center. One strip here. Okay. So I'm just going to run a line of adhesive and attach this right over the top. A little of the orange to show on both sides there. So I've added the black pleated ribbon on top, and then just to add something in between here, I'm going to tie some baker's twine. So I'm just going to hold this in the back and loop it through so that I have 2 loops over the top. I'm going to cut that so I know how long I have, and I'm going to run some glue on the back to hold it in place. You can cover that with another piece of cardstock and some adhesive there, and that'll hold things into place. And then I think I'll probably add a little gem here where they cross. So I'm going to do that to each of these, and then that will be all 9 squares. Okay, I added the baker's twine to all of these squares, and I had thought I would add a gem here, but it turned out I didn't have anything that was quite what I wanted. They either looked too small or too big. So I went back to the drawing board, and I found a Halloween sticker I'm afraid it's an older one. It's a couple years old from Making Memories. But it has various different words printed, and they're all Halloween words. So what I'm going to do is cut out 3 different words and then put that over the overlap instead of a gem. So you could do this with any stickers that you've got handy, or you could just print out words that you wanted. And that way you'd be able to have that little bit of extra embellishment. So I'm just going to cut out the words from this sticker. And add some more black. And then place that over the join, which I like for a texture a little bit better than the gems. So the finishing touches for this, I've added 2 layers of ribbon down here at the bottom. One that's orange and then a black rickrack over the top. Just adhered to the frame with regular adhesive. Then I punched 1 more of the printed circles here, and the same punch that I used for the scallop circle, but I punched it from the leftovers that I had from these backgrounds and added that at the join here. And then I'm adding the letters to spell October at the top, and I've left off the R so I can show you how I've done that. These are just chipboard letter stickers. They actually were pink to start out with. I didn't have any black ones that were quite the right size. So I've just used pink and then painted them with the same paint dabber that I used on the box frame. And then the way I'm attaching these is with toothpicks and double-sided tape. So what I have been doing is I take a toothpick and go to the flat end of the toothpick is going to go behind the letter. Just taking some double-sided tape and wrapping that around this flat end of the toothpick. There we go. Okay, so there's adhesive on the end of that. And then I take the letter and adhere the toothpick to the back of the letter on whatever piece is going to come all the way down so that the toothpick isn't going to show. Then I need another little bit of double-sided tape that is going to hold the toothpick in place. And then I line up the letter. And press the tape into place. So at the back, looks like this at the moment. And there's double-sided tape across all of this. And then once I'm sure they're all in the right place, I'm going to pull all the paper backing off the double-sided tape and do one more row all the way across just to make sure all those toothpicks are absolutely in place. And then I'm going to cover it all with just a bit of scrap paper to make sure there's no glue left, and that'll help bond everything together. And then there's your finished project. I will mention that if you like this idea but would like a little bit more bling to the project. You could always add gems, but what I do like to do with a project like this is then to take the whiter shades like the pearl or the marshmallow of the glimmer mist and just spray around the corners to get a nice fine glitter. Or you could add stickles or anything else if you like a little bit more sparkle on your project. Thanks for joining me, and I hope you enjoy making some holiday decor. Thanks!